what's up? Check out this blunt and honest review from the Jock and Nerd Podcast. That's us. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the jock.
He's the nerd.
And he's the rug boy.
What's up, guys?
Jock and Nerd. Okay, let's get to this week's review. You've seen the title, Anthony. We're going to be reviewing Friday the 13th from 1980. Why? Can you tell us why? Doing slasher movie in December?
Well, if you remember, we started this off by doing Halloweeny. No, actually, it was just Halloween on or around the Halloween. I think it was a little bit before.
That's right. It was mid-October.
And then someone, if you join our Discord, which you can only do by joining our Patreon.
That's right.
You would have known that someone on there, I forget who, suggested we do all the first origin movies of the big three. Yeah. So Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers. So we did Nightmare on Elm Street, and we didn't have anything to do this week, so we figured we'd round it out by doing Jason's origin, or sort of Jason's origin, in Friday the 13th. So here we are.
Yeah.
In December.
I think in December. Fuck it. It's always scary season for the horror people. But it's an important trio of movies that gave birth to the slasher genre. So here's your spoilers, first of all, for this old-ass movie.
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
Now, we are in 1980, so we did them chronologically out of order. Halloween comes out in 1978. This movie comes out in 1980, and then you get Freddy, what was it, 84?
Yep.
And so this movie actually released May 9th, 1980, and it goes on to launch a franchise that comprises of 12 movies, a TV series, novels, comic books, there's video games, there was merchandise, but 12 fucking movies. I think that's more. I might tie Halloween. I don't remember. More than Freddy, more than the Freddy and Mike Myers movies. It's a lot of movies.
Well, if you count all the Michael Myers fictional and non-fictional movies, does it beat? I don't think so.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe there's more of those.
There's non-fiction?
Well, the real not Mike Myers.
Oh, if you count,
yeah, baby.
If you count all the Austin Powers, then
I walked right into that.
Halloween,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
behave. 12. Not funny.
I think there are 13
Oh, okay.
Halloween movies.
Okay, so that one may actually win.
Yeah.
On the Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has a 66% critics score.
Groovy.
60% audience score. It's also, out of all the 12 movies, it's the highest rated Rotten Tomatoes. Yes. The others goes down drastically. But here's the crazy fact. The movie was made for a budget of $550,000. Goes on to make almost $60 million worldwide.
Oh, shit.
It's a rare thing. This was a kind of an independent feature that had international distribution, and we'll get into that. Anthony, you want to give us the 1980 box office? You want to do that?
Oh, sure. I wasn't prepared, so say some words before I find that.
Give me the because $60 million for this movie is huge, and I think it puts it up somewhere in the top 20 of 1980. But it's like the highest grossing independent movie of its time.
Let's go with 1980, because you can do this in-year releases or calendar releases. I'll just go with in-year because I'm too stupid right now to think about what the difference means. 1980, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. It wasn't called Episode 5 back then. Is the number one.
Oh, that's number one, of course.
Number 2, 9 to 5.
Old Dolly Parton.
Number 3, Stir Crazy.
Oh, Gene Wilder, Richard Pryor, great movie.
4, Airplane.
Oh, another great movie.
Do you like gladiator movies?
You ever seen a grown man naked, Joey?
Number 5, Any Which Way You Can.
Oh, was that a football?
Clint Eastwood with a monkey.
Oh, that was that one.
Orangutan.
Next, 6, Private Benjamin.
That's Goldie Hawn.
It's Goldie Hawn in the Army.
Goldie Hawn in the Army.
7, Coal Miner's Daughter.
That's a Meryl Streep joint, right? Maybe?
No.
I
think that's Loretta Lynn or something.
Loretta Lynn, yeah. Next one is Smokey and the Bandit 2.
Now that one has Sally Field in it.
Sally Field and a monkey. Is there a monkey? There's a monkey.
No, just Burt Reynolds.
Oh, it's just Burt Reynolds.
Almost like a monkey.
Number 9, The Blue Lagoon.
Oh,
That's Brooke Shields, like 16 years old, naked on screen.
borderline porn movie there.
Yeah.
And number 10, The Blues Brothers.
Oh, nice.
Saturday Night Live alums doing their little thing.
That's a
Now,
classic.
some of the other movies. First off, Friday the 13th is 18th when you're talking about in-year releases.
Okay, that's not bad.
15th, and you're talking about calendar gross. I don't know what the fuck that difference is. We're going to stay with in-year releases. But other notable movies from the year, Popeye.
Oh, Robert Williams. Have you seen that movie?
It's great.
It's fucking great. It's wild.
I haven't seen it in a long
wild.
time.
It's
The
not what you
Shining?
think it's going to be.
Yeah. So The Shining, another
Shining.
big horror release that this movie went up against.
17, Caddyshack.
Oh, classic.
Great movie.
Another classic. Cinderella Story.
A couple other movies to be aware of. You got number 25, The Elephant Man. 27, Raging Bull.
Oh my God.
This is a good year for movies.
31, The Fog.
That's a good movie too.
1980 had some fucking crazy things going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies that weren't in the top 10 that ended up getting,
But not the
remembered.
Kentucky Fried Movie.
That's in the
No.
top 10 in my heart. All right. Anyways, back to Friday the 13th. This movie produced and directed by Sean S. Cunningham and written by Victor Miller. You have makeup effects from the legendary Tom Savini, who had just done Dawn of the Dead. It's how he gets this job. Starring in this movie, you have your final girl, Adrienne King, playing Alice, this movie's final girl. You have Betsy Palmer as Mrs. Voorhees. And then, of course, you're going to have a bunch of horny teenagers. Robbie Morgan, Janine Taylor, Harry Crosby playing Billy, who was at the time of kind of famous as he was son of Bing Crosby. And you have a very young, fresh-faced Kevin Bacon. I think he was just doing like soaps or something. Just did a couple of things. So again, similar to Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, you have like these young stars. Johnny Depp and what's her name? Blanket on
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Now we add the Baconator, 6 Degrees, Kevin Bacon,
That's right.
and a bunch of other people. Anthony, what's your relationship with this movie?
Never seen it.
You know what? I'd never seen this movie either.
Yeah,
This is
never
the first
seen it.
time.
I've
I
obviously,
always avoided it because Jason wasn't in it. So I was like,
Yeah.
no point.
yeah, I mean, I obviously have a relationship with Jason, seen some of the movies. I don't think I've ever sat down and, other than a couple, I haven't sat down and watched all the Jason movies ever. And yeah, I haven't seen the first one. So
Same. This was like, I was like, I've never seen this shit. All right. So what happens in Friday the 13th, Anthony?
yeah, and Friday the 13th starts off in 1958 when some camp counselors are doing the nasty and get murdered. And it immediately shifts to present day. It's sometime in the 80s, 1980. And Camp Crystal Lake, ever since that incident at the lake in which some camp counselors were murdered, and prior to that, a little boy drowned. Every time someone tries to open the camp, things happen. So it's been basically cursed. Yet some guy decides he wants to reopen Camp Crystal Lake. And when he does so, some teenagers come by to help him open the camp and become camp counselors and have sex. And they all start mysteriously dying one by one. That's the plot.
Yep. We'll get to the crazy twist at the end, but very straightforward. Kids,
Pretty straightforward.
horny
Yeah.
teenagers getting killed one at a time. Clearly, there's a lot of things this thing is lifting from Halloween, obviously inspired with the opening in the past and horny teenagers getting killed. And no
Stalker
adults
vision.
around. Yes, first person,
POV, yeah.
lots of POV shots, but changing the setting, right? Instead of the suburbs like in Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, we're at a camp. And now camps are forever scary, I think, to anyone who liked this movie. What were your thoughts, Anthony, coming out of this the first time, knowing its kind of history and legacy?
Yeah, when I watched it last night, and one of the first things I thought of was it's pretty astonishing that this movie sparked a franchise that everyone knows and has different levels of is something that's in the social awareness even to this day. Jason, Friday the 13th. You say any of those things, people know, for the most part, know what you're talking about. And it's crazy that this movie, unlike Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, this movie sparked all that stuff, and at least for the first one, did not have the formula right. Whereas Halloween, right away, inevitably, we're gonna compare them. Halloween, Michael Myers in the William Shatner white mask, they got it. Freddy, years later, fucked up, burnt guy killing people in their dreams. They nailed it right away. This movie, old lady in a knit sweater, ends up turning into giant burly zombie in a hockey mask.
It's not her.
They didn't know what they were doing.
No.
They didn't know.
Well, I think they had a plan. I think they had a plan, but I really, because they were the most memorable shot in the movie is when he comes out of the water, right?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, even in the second one, he doesn't have the hockey mask yet. He wears a burlap sack over his face.
I believe he doesn't get that till the third. The machete and the mask. And originally, it's his mom. He's the kid that drowned 2 years earlier. Right. And Mrs. Voorhees allegedly has been doing all this killing, which at some parts we'll talk about. You got to question, because I don't think that was a woman's hand in one of these things.
And to address Ruggs' point, I believe I read in my research that ending with Jason coming out was tacked on. They initially didn't want that.
Yes. So let's talk about the twist at the end is that it's his mom, right? And at the very end,
I guess for those that haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure that everyone has, but for those that haven't, the whole movie, these camp counselors are getting knocked out one by one, and everyone thinks, well, I guess at the time the red herring was that old guy that going, oh,
Crazy
don't
Ralph.
go there.
Yes, he shows up at the camp.
But everyone that watches this movie with the 21st century perspective probably thinks it's Jason, and then it's neither. It's his mom. So you're getting all these kills that happen from POV or just off camera, all these brutal kills that happen, and it's not anyone you would have expected.
Well, and they don't ever show him. You see legs, you see maybe a shoulder, you see a hand or her, right? And she comes up trying to help and reveals that her son was killed and you guys were fucking. And she goes, and this old lady goes
not
crazy.
Paying attention.
Not paying attention. And then Alice has to decapitate her, and she's floating in the canoe, and it's daytime, and the cops are there, and suddenly this little boy from behind pops out of the water.
I think it's like a grown person.
There's a couple of things. Victor Miller did not like, the writer, that they went on to make Jason the bad guy, because to him, Jason was dead. He was the victim. Tom Savini had just seen the movie Carrie, Stephen King's movie Carrie, and was like, we need a jump scare at the end. How about it's Jason, I look like a little boy. Is he an adult? I think
he's the same size as the girl he's pulling down. Is he? Rat. Yeah.
But she says it was like a little boy when she wakes in the hospital. And she goes, there was no boy, and he's still there. So he tacks that on. And I mean, it was an interesting finish. Like I wasn't expecting that. But it was never supposed to be him. And the fact that he goes on to like go into outer space and fight Freddy and to do all these crazy things is kind of wild.
Yeah, that third act, I mean, we're just jumping right ahead, but that third act, I feel like the movie so we're talking about just the initial impressions and talking about this movie. The first 2 quarters of this movie is pretty kind of just boring, in my opinion.
It's a slow burn.
Not even slow. There's no characters
there's nothing interesting going on.
There's nothing happening. Yeah. Like the kills are, by today's standards, pretty tame. It's the mystery is kind of whatever. The characters, no one you can even latch on to, even the final girl. Then the twist happens, and for me personally, it becomes a comedy at that point. Because this old lady, fighting with Alice and just getting slapped around, and she's slapping her around, and it's just, she's in this knit sweater, and she's doing the whole Norman Bates psycho thing where she's talking as if she's also Jason, and it just becomes so ridiculous at that point that's when I immediately went, this movie is hilarious. It's also way more entertaining, and it also is infinitely more dumb because of all those three things.
You're telling me that old lady threw that girl's body through the window? Come on.
There's so many things.
But that's why I feel like you can almost write it up. Part of me was like, was Jason helping her this whole time? Because the kills are they're tame by today's standards, but they were pretty shocking.
It was brutal back then. Yeah.
I think that the makeup designed by Tom Savini was actually really brilliant. The kills here are way better than the ones in Halloween. As far as like realism,
they're bloodier.
Well, like the slashes in the throats, they look real.
Yeah.
And the piercing through the arrowhead through Kevin Bacon is really like, how do they do that? That's crazy.
So that scene is one that it's like, I think pops out. It's iconic. Kevin Bacon's death. And how they did that was, I read, he stuck his head through the mattress and like the whole neck and body is fake. And there was compressed air that's supposed to blow out the blood and it wasn't working. And one of the guys just like pulled the tube and blew in it and it spurts out all at once. And that's the shot. But like shit like that and the axe in the head, I think really caught the audience off guard because even the axe in the head, it's like a split second you see it, but it looks fucking real.
Good.
Yeah,
it looks good.
It looks fucking
good.
real.
Those standards, I think it looks great
For $550,000. Like it's pretty good effects.
A lot of the criticism from that time was that the movie was just a gore fest and that the people were turned off by how brutal it was.
This is what was gratuitous in 80, right? Which is kind of crazy. They'd never seen this, but then everybody starts copying this also.
Let's go into the plot a little bit real quick. So the movie starts out with a lady hitchhiking to Camp Crystal, and you kind of get this red herring where you think she's immediately the final girl,
right?
And she's not,
right? Annie,
and then you have all these different teenagers showing up to Camp Crystal Lake to help this older dude who's kind of a creep set everything up, and from there, when he leaves, and this all happens in one night, it's Friday the 13th.
Oh, right.
Each one of these people start to get picked off one by one, and starting with Annie.
I do love in the beginning of the movie, like some of it doesn't age really well, obviously, but it seemed like every guy is like objectifying women. How many times did the guy go, oh, yeah, that's good looking as you up there, Camp Crystal Lake? Several times. And then did you notice when like Enos helps her into the truck, he's got both hands on her ass and just pushes
her butt.
He pushes her butt right up there, which was hilarious.
I love that trucker guy immediately at the bar, or when they leave the bar, it just dismisses the crazy old guys. Oh, don't listen to him. And then he gets in the truck and he starts going, oh, it's dangerous over there. Don't go. Like, wait, what are you talking about? You just dismissed the guy and now you're spouting off how
Crazy
dangerous
Ralph is like, you're going to Camp Blood, ain't you? Which is the nickname. And that guy's like, shut up. And then he's like, that place is cursed. Don't go up there. So the whole Annie thing was crazy because then he's only taken her halfway and she hitchhikes. A Jeep comes by and then you get back to the first person point of view and you're like, what the fuck's going on? And she just happily jumps in there. Doesn't seem that the person's a threat.
It's an old lady.
It's an old lady.
In a knit sweater.
But then she won't let her out. And this fucking girl does like a fucking dive out of, how fast was this Jeep going? Like 40 miles an hour. She just tumbles and rolls. She's fine. I was like, holy shit, that fucking car was going fast. She just leaps out. And then, her throat slit prosthetic. That was pretty good too for the time. And then I love how you meet the owner and he's just like, he's just topless and glistening, chopping wood. Like, the fuck is going on?
Just this skinny dad bod.
Yeah, with a fucking handkerchief and nothing else. I was like, this was the look.
That's like an 80s porno guy bod.
It was. It
really was.
Steve Christie has the porno mustache. He looks like he came off the set of a porn.
He looks like he's got probably the Amazon rainforest downstairs for sure.
Oh yeah, that was.
It's probably a weird color of like brown blonde.
That was the style at the time.
Yeah. I like the part where he just creepily hits on Alice. Just stay one more week.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll take you. I'll see you out myself. And he touches her face, and it's just so creepy and strange.
She gives him that look like the fuck is going on here. She gave me like a little bit of Molly Ringwald vibes, Adrienne King, slightly.
What?
In what
way?
You don't like strip
Monopoly?
Monopoly.
I was excited for Strip Monopoly, but they didn't.
That went nowhere.
They didn't get very far at the Strip Monopoly. There are
They
boobies.
had the money out. The money was out.
There's boobies in the movie, right?
There is, yeah.
When Kevin Bacon,
Yeah, Kevin Bacon's girl gets naked, yeah.
And they're banging with dead Ned above them on the bunk bed. Ned also kind of an interesting character for this kind of thing. I think he was the start of like the nerd guy in slasher movies. Because
really, you thought he was the nerd guy?
I mean,
I thought he was more of the douchey hornball.
Yeah, he is. I guess he's a hornball, but he's kind of a little bit awkward. I don't know. He just seemed like a unique character type.
Fake drowning to make out with a girl type thing.
All that kind of creepy shit. Like, and then everyone else is a little more better looking. I don't know. But how about that? The interaction when the cop shows up and Ned's wearing like the Native American headdress and just being all politically incorrect.
I'll say this: they do a decent job of figuring out ways to get the cops not involved. Like twice the cops show up.
Yeah, looking for Ralph.
And they call them back either for crimes that are happening or their accidents. So they find I wouldn't say it's super unique, but they definitely at least try to make the effort to go, okay, why would this place be not have anyone helping them out if something happens?
And then you're like Steve Christie, get the fuck back. And all these things happen to him and he can't make it back. And then also explains how when he shows up and he sees the person with the flashlight, he's like, oh, hi, you. Mm-hmm. And then he's fucking stabbed.
What surprised me about this movie was, although there is, we described some of the violence, a lot of the violence is off screen, which have not seen this. I did not anticipate that half the kills you wouldn't even really see.
Yeah, because the one girl, she gets lured out when she hears the boy's voice and it's raining in the archery, and then you just see her body get thrown through the window. You don't even really see her get killed. Brenda.
Her or the other dude that gets his throat slit.
Oh, yeah, Ned. Did you just see his body?
The guy you think is supposed to be nerdy, which I still don't get, but all right.
And then you get a similar like Halloween kill where the guy is pinned up on the door with the arrows. So there's some clear...
Yeah, how'd she do that?
I don't. How fucking strong is this woman? How strong is this woman?
She was doing coke.
Were you guys at any point? Here's a couple questions. Were you guys at any point scared or tense? Any feeling? I wouldn't go say scared because I don't feel like the movie's that scary. But tense. Was there any tension at all for you guys?
I'm gonna say not too much.
Like just that last shot where he jumps out of the water is the jump scare.
Yes, that is the only kind of surprising thing. They use the POV shot so much that like you kind of get desensitized to it. You're like, oh, some bad shit's gonna happen.
Because they use it where sometimes it's POV of her, but then sometimes it's just POV for the sake of POV.
Oh,
and it's not her. You don't think
it's always her?
No, there's a couple points where it's not her.
She's like, there's one point where she's standing by the tree and the girl just like, the camera follows her like it's her and she just walks by her. Also, it was unclear. At one moment, it's the POV of her at the camp, and then the next moment is like Annie in the Jeep. And I thought there was two killers. I thought the person driving the Jeep was somebody else because I was like, they were just at the camp. What are we doing here? It was a little confusing.
Yeah, they overuse it, and there are times where I can't spout them specifically, but there are times where they use POV and it's actually no one. It's just them using a POV shot.
That's strange.
It's inconsistent.
They're just making shit up.
Yeah, it for me, I didn't find it to be. Halloween 1 is definitely a much more moody and scary, and Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street has the creativity of the dreams and stuff.
Yeah,
I found this movie in comparison to the other two to be pretty bland.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes it a thing is the twist where it's the mom.
The twist, and I think like the setting. Like he tried to do something different
with the camp. Yeah.
Putting it in the camp.
But I find it to be a pretty. That's why when I initially said it, I'm surprised that this movie spawned a horror icon because this is pretty much a. I mean, maybe this is blasphemous to say as a horror, as if for some of the horror fans are listening, but it's a pretty nothing burger movie. It's just kind of. Other than that twist, there's nothing to really hang your hand on.
I do agree.
I mean, if Tom Savini hadn't tacked on that ending and the writer got what he want, like this franchise never gets bored.
Well, I'm even surprised that it made the money it did.
Right, that it made $60 million, that it was that popular.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Let's do a quick list of pros here, like to give some compliments to.
Yes.
I think the music was pretty good.
Oh, yes. We can talk about the music. It's iconic.
I think that the makeup and the effects were good.
The effects are very good for the time. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's edited pretty well and assembled pretty well. Just there's nothing really going on other than, and you know, it is a letdown that the mother is the final killer, and
but it's fucking funny.
It sucks like the drama out of it and makes it funny.
You're like, what? I mean, the decapitation scene's it's pretty funny. It's pretty good.
Her slapping her around. I like the frying pan KO where she knocks her out with the pan and then runs away again.
Yeah, I mean, Annie fought back pretty good, but I was like, how is this a problem? This is an old middle-aged woman you're fighting. You should be able to just take it.
Here's another pro. I think later Jason movies probably fall victim to this, but because they don't know what's going on, you can make a reasonable case that when they leave to go solo to different spots, that it's not actually a dumb decision because they just don't know what's happening.
I thought that was kind of a different thing compared to other movies, as they have no way of knowing going on until the end when Annie's left surviving. You can't blame them for Ned walking into the cabin going, hello, who's there? Can I help you? Because they have no clue. There's no escaped mental patient on the news or whatever.
I'll give credit to the old lady that plays Mrs. Voorhees.
Betsy Palmer.
She's doing some sort of acting there, and she's by far the best actress on that set.
Yeah, the other
everyone else.
Yes. Well, so she was kind of established, and Betsy Palmer, the story goes, was confused why they wanted her to play this role. It's not kind of
pay her $1,000 a day to do there.
She thought the script was shit, but her car broke down, and that's why she took the job. Because she needed a new car. They wanted Estelle Parsons and Shelley Winters to play Mrs. Voorhees, but they turned it down, those two.
They should have gotten Lark Voorhees.
Oh, Lark Voorhees from Saved by the Bell?
Yeah.
Lisa Turtle?
Yeah.
Lisa Turtle could have done a good job. That's pretty scary. Can you imagine Lisa Turtle pops up? I would be scared.
Born yet.
Yeah, see what AC Slater pops up. He's Jason Voorhees.
It's Screech.
The ending is a good twist, not twist, but twist ending. Whereas it's better than the Nightmare on Elm Street one, where the doll gets sucked into the door.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's not on par with the Halloween one, but it's a good twist ending with the kid coming out.
Yeah, I would say second as far as twist endings go.
What other good things are there? We said the kills.
Strip Monopoly? No, that's not good.
For some reason, even though it's an hour and a half, I felt like the movie
it dragged a little.
Yeah.
Again, it's a slow pace until
it's a very slow pace.
The last 20 minutes. I think that's pretty much what it has its legacy, and it has, it's giving you the iconic character, but the original movie itself, it's surprising how weird it is.
Not even weird, just some more. I don't want to go with weird. I would just go with just bland. Just a very bland movie.
I just think that the genre was kind of like new, and so anything that was in this genre was kind of noteworthy, especially if it came out in a big release, because there was a lot of like Italian horror and stuff like that, but you couldn't go to the movies to see it. It was like not
something this gory, right? And it's 2 years after Halloween, so audiences probably were like, we want more of that. And
it was I mean, this was the time.
Yeah.
This was all starting to really get popular. I think probably even, this is just my speculation, but people at the time thinking that it was a very gruesome movie.
Yeah.
Probably even added more of the interest in it. I mean, it was deemed as a exploitation movie.
Almost, yeah. It's hard to watch this now. Again, you have to put yourself back in 1980 where audiences are losing their mind. I learned a couple of things. Originally they wanted to call it A Long Night at Camp Blood, which would have been an okay title, I guess. No.
Friday the 13th is the nail.
So the reason they came up with this title, Sean, the producer, had this title in mind, and he wasn't sure if somebody else had copyrights to this. So what he did was take out this full-page ad of the title Breaking Through Glass before they even started shooting the movie to kind of get copyright. There was another movie called Friday the 13th, the Little Orphan or the Bad Orphan or something, but they didn't have any issues. In fact, it causes a bidding war for distribution once people saw this. The guy. So we talked about Kevin Bacon's death, very iconic. Bill's death, the guy who was pinned up against with the arrows, the fake blood got in his eyes, and he was like blind for like 6 months after that. They weren't supposed to get that shit in his eyes. Remember the whole snake? There's a snake in the cabin.
Yeah, they killed the snake for real.
That was a real fucking snake they killed. The first shot of it looks so fake, but when they actually kill it, it's a real. You couldn't do that today. Jesus Christ. They killed a real snake. That
did look like a real snake.
So Mrs. Voorhees getting decapitated apparently is the first time you see a victim get decapitated in a movie. So I think it holds that record. The music, the iconic mom. So the composer Manfredi took the first part of the words kill and mama from when she says, kill her, mommy, kill her. He just like loops those and puts effects on them, the key and the ma from kill her, mommy, and makes that iconic score. Like that's kind of frightening because sometimes if you're in the middle of the forest and you hear that, you're like, that's not good. The kid. So the person who played Jason Voorhees, his name is Ari Lehman, and I think he was a child or a young adult. He goes on to form a metal band called First Jason. It's kind of fun. I think they're still around.
That's funny,
right? He was First Jason. Lou Reed was their neighbor while they were shooting this movie, and he'd come over and hang out and play music for them. So that's kind of fun. Alternate casting, they wanted Sally Field as the lead. They wanted a name, but they could not afford her. So Adrienne King gets the job because she knew someone who knew someone that was working on the movie. This camp actually shot on a working camp in Hardwick, New Jersey. This camp is in New Jersey. Boy Scout Camp No Be Bo Skull. And I believe it's still there and it still operates. Who the fuck would go to this camp?
New Jersey's got a lot of camps. New York's got a lot of camps.
I can't believe this camp is still around. I wonder if they have Camp Crystal Lake sign out front. I don't know.
No,
I don't know if I'd go there. But I guess,
man, you're really playing it up like this movie fucking creeps you out.
It led to being creeped out of things, but it's not really the movie. It's kind of like the legacy of the movie. I mean, at the end of the day, right? We just said.
I mean, I don't know. I find of the three, I find Jason to be the least scary.
It was kind of the least scary. It was kind of the most boring.
I wouldn't say the most boring, but of the three, Jason was always known, at least for me, as the dude with the hockey mask. You would watch the movies to see, okay, what creative ways is he going to fuck people up?
Right.
Whereas the other movies, at least built on, or at least the first ones, like Halloween is legitimately scary, right?
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, for some people, I find it to be creative and scary. This movie, I just don't find to be scary. And then the later iterations of Jason, I find to be even less scary because he's just kind of a big doofus.
The Terminator.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it ends up being like cheesy and campy, but I think that's what people enjoyed for the.
Oh yeah, I think that's the appeal to these. You get to see these. The teenagers getting killed in creative ways was the appeal, and that's eventually Halloween saw this and went, oh, we need to do it like that.
It's just crazy that he doesn't get his fucking mask or machete until the third fucking movie, and they made 12 of these movies. It's kind of wild. So
yeah, it's a movie.
I think that the best Friday the 13th movie is probably Jason Lives.
How many times does he get resurrected from the dead in these movies?
Everyone.
There's one of them. I think it's part 4 or 5. I'm not sure. Someone will correct me. Where he's not in it. It's actually another person under the mask.
Oh.
That's
New Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it has its place. I think if it wasn't for these three movies that we did, this original trio.
Well, of course it has its place.
You know.
It created the franchise that maybe a lot of people probably think is the most iconic horror character in all of all.
Does his mom ever come back up in any of these movies? Like, does he?
I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
no, she doesn't.
She's done.
No.
She's done.
She's done. But he comes back, obviously.
And I wonder, does Adrian King do another Nightmare on Elm Street Alice movie?
She does the second one.
Oh, she does do the second one.
Yeah.
Oh, she's in part two. Okay.
Yep.
Which comes out the next year. Jesus.
They just, right away. I mean,
they're like, let's crank these out.
You look at, so they did, so for some context here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They did 8 movies in the 80s.
Oh, shit.
They did 80, 81, 82, 84, 85, 86, 88, 89.
Man, Jason was ruling every year in the 80s.
They were just pumping them out.
That's crazy. That's also the same time you have like Stallone and Schwarzenegger pumping out their movies. What a time the 80s was. You just had crazy shit every year.
You just had lots of movies.
All right, let's wrap this up. Give me a rating. Final thoughts.
Jesus.
Anthony.
What I'll do is a rating, final thoughts, and then I'll do a quick comparison amongst the three.
Okay.
Even though you already probably can tell what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Rating, I'll give it a 5.5.
Okay.
I think if it didn't have the legacy it did, I'd probably say it's probably about a 3 or 2. But the legacy, plus I just couldn't not stop laughing once the reveal happens and it's the old lady, Miss Voorhees, fighting with people. I thought it was so funny, and it made the movie so much more entertaining. As far as, so yeah, those are my final thoughts. You know, it's certainly not as good as Halloween. It's certainly not as good even to me as Nightmare on Elm Street. It's definitely last amongst the three. It's a pretty bland movie. It's crazy to me that it spawned what it did. But I will say, I mean, there was parts of it that were entertaining, and I think as a child, as a teenager, I've avoided this movie because it's probably really scary. So now to have seen it, it just more or less just gives me more perspective, or I'm happy to at least say, hey, I've seen it, and that now it's under my belt, and now I don't quite understand what it did, but at least I had a good laugh watching it. So there you go.
All right.
Last amongst the three by far.
Yeah. Okay. Ruggs, what are you going to do?
I think a 5.5 is a fair score. I maybe go down to a 5. I feel like the music and Tom Savini's makeup, I think there's nothing to this movie.
Yeah.
The fact that there's that jump scare at the end saves the whole movie. So Tom Savini pretty much saved this entire movie with bringing Jason back as the antagonist.
Yeah.
So it's definitely at the bottom of the three that we watched. And that's all I got to say about it. If you're really a completist, you should watch it, but then you can just get away with watching any Jason movie. You'll have a better time.
I mean, I'm with you guys. It is my least favorite out of the three, but I'm glad I watched it just for its time in history and its place. I'd probably give it I was going to give it a 6. But in the Kevin Bacon death scene, like a hand comes out and grabs his head. That's like a man's hand. It's clearly a man's hand. That's why I thought like Jason was helping her the whole time. I was like, there's two of these motherfuckers. But Halloween is the better horror scare movie, and then Freddy is just fun and crazy. I love some of the 80s-ness of this movie, but
it's super porn star 80s for sure.
It's super porn star 80s. It's a little time capsule of the time, which is kind of what I love, that stuff. But yeah, Mrs. Voorhees at the end, I was not expecting that, but here we are.
I'll throw it to our listeners real quick. This is unexpected, Imran, but if our listeners want us to continue doing these origin films, we could do, your Psychos and Texas Chainsaw Massacres if listeners are into that stuff, or Child's Play, things like that. Oh.
Really?
And I know Rug Boy has no voice, so that's why I'm posing this now. So
we can do Leprechaun and all this fucking shit. I mean, eventually you get up to Scream, which to me would be like the next interesting change in this genre or whatever.
Well, the reason I thought of Psycho is because it's clear that Mrs. Voorhees is doing her best Norman Bates impersonation.
Well, and I think Psycho inspired a lot of what goes in Halloween.
Oh yeah, Psycho's
and
the OG slasher movie.
Yeah, there's that other John Carpenter movie that was also this dude Cunningham actually worked with John Carpenter on the movie he made before Halloween, which is like another horror movie that's always cited. But yeah, let us know what's your favorite also out of these three. Would love to know from the listener.